This information is for educational purposes only and is not intended for medical advice.
Welcome to Enhancing the Human. I'm Dr. Jena Gatses, a renowned expert in the field of human enhancement. I've spent decades of my life exploring all aspects of human health, which has allowed me to take people from extreme injury and disability to peak athletic performance. I use cutting-edge advancements, breakthrough technologies, and scientific insights to push the boundaries of human capabilities. The human body is able to do so much more than you think. Let's start enhancing the human. Welcome to Enhancing the Human. I'm your host, Dr. Jena Gatses, and thank you for joining us today. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Vince Pitstick. He owns one of the largest one-on-one health and coaching companies in the United States, and they are revolutionizing the health and wellness space. His company's process includes blood work, genetic testing, and implement lifestyle factors that will make a change in long-term healing and improvement in overall systemic health. I cannot wait for you guys to hear this. Let's get to it. Well, thank you for being on. We appreciate it so much.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
I'm excited to hear about your journey and how you started with all of this.
Yeah.
I feel like we have similar backgrounds. I started as a personal trainer too, and just getting into physical therapy work, and then studying manual therapy too. But tell me a little bit about how you started this, what sparked your interest, and just for people to know, I introduced you before this, but just for people to know, just your nutrition and holistic company. It's now Vital Nutrition.
Yeah, so we have what's called the Vital Network. We have our own online functional health network, and a lot of the businesses are coaching companies that do functional nutrition. But we own our own medical health clinic, virtual. We own our own. We got a university. We have our own apps, all of that all together. So we wanted to tell Western medicine to go ahead and take a hike. And I learned that, coming up through the medical system myself as a really, really sick kid. So when I was like about 7, 8 years old, I was struck with a very rare form of a psychiatric disorder that like no one really understood at the time. And I had other physical ailments alongside of it. And the medical system kind of failed me and just tried to throw me on a bunch of drugs. The drugs that they put kids on back then for that kind of stuff really messed them up. I'm glad that I had an intuition at 8 years old not to take the drugs that they wanted to give me. It served me well through the rest of my life. And then I went on the tour of searching, just like everybody does when they're in search of something that's alternative or outside the norm. And then you start running into a lot of weird stuff, a lot of alternative. The word alternative is quite broad. Quite broad.
And it's alternative for a reason. It's labeled alternative for a reason because it works.
Yeah.
It works.
It turned out you put the combination of, like, I was a kid that was always outside. I was always in the cornfields. I wouldn't come back. I'd be gone for a day. My parents wouldn't worry about where I'm at. It was just a different time, But I was just overexposed. We know a lot of the chemicals that my father used at the time are known to have neurological potential side effects if overexposed to over time. Plus, a lot of trauma in the home. My family life early on. My parents are amazing now. Don't get it twisted. Whoever's listening or watching, they're incredible people. They grew up, but at the time they were terrible for each other, and it was a chaotic upbringing, to say the least. You mix those things together, and you get dysfunction. And
that can create disorder.
Right. So then, and so through learning many different methods, through therapy, through nutrition, through fitness, through many different modalities being used all at the same time, the obsession and the mental disorder was lifted. And so I had always had an alternative look at what healing looked like. Right.
Can I tell people what disorder you had just so they can relate?
It was a rare form of OCD. But it also had like a dissociative disorder assigned with it. So it was a lot of things at the time. They weren't really good at pinning different things down then like they are now, I suppose.
Right. Well, even now is questionable, but people are trying. People are thriving for more answers. So I feel like there's a lot more accountability there. So just for people to know, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, it's a neurological issue where, again, when you put the system in trauma, the CNS, the brain and spinal cord, it doesn't know how to function, and symptoms can come from that, and you can experience different things as a cause of that, but it doesn't mean you're broken. There's so many things that you can do to fix the nervous system and to harness a better environment.
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now, OCD is a superpower. If you learn to harness it correctly,
Hmm?
right? Like I took that same disorder and then that's how I was able to build an 8-figure network, just being a personal trainer with no license or no permission from anyone, right? And it's that same, it's the same thing that if you don't know how to manage it right, or you don't know how to like work with it correctly, kind of like, I hate to say this, but akin to autism, where it's like, there's nothing really wrong with you. It's just the way that you have to process and the way that you have to look at the world and the way that you need to kind of run your life needs to be trained to you differently. You have to learn to use the superpower correctly. And that's how I frame it. Because otherwise you just label yourself with a disease. And I walked around with that for a long time. And I realized that that is a really dangerous recipe for long-term. You get what you believe and what you speak. So it's like, if I'm a diseased kid, then I'm always going to be a diseased person.
And it crutches people for life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just so you know, I see patients on a regular basis and I work with all these surgeons and I'm like, no, that can be fixed. We can work like what are
Yeah.
we curing here? We're not curing because what are we doing then? Because I'm not in that business. Like I want
Yeah.
you to be free from me. But it's sad because I see people get depressed over not being able to do something functionally because they feel like they're broken because they've been
Right.
told by these
Exactly.
physicians that they are. So it's sad, but it's
Yeah. And
also
it came down. My last therapist, that was one of the best ones after, again, I think there's three main stress pathways. There's chemical, physical, and emotional. To the body, you're going to categorize all of the different types of stressors that you can have. And the body does a really, really good job managing any one of those stressors at one time. Like, for example, you'll meet the smoker that's been smoking for like 80 years and seems to be okay. But the minute that they go through a divorce, all of their health falls
also
apart. Or you see where I'm going with this? So it's like at the intersection of two stress pathways that seem to get overwhelmed. Now the system can't contain it and sustain balance. And so that's why, you know, so for me, I'm living proof that like when I worked with that last therapist, he was like, you have a decision to make. Like you can leave this office and decide that you're a sick boy and you're always going to be that, or you can decide that you're not and you're a boy on the mend, that you are better. There's nothing to fix, right? There's nothing to fix. There's a way to manage and change the way that your relationship to the world, how you process information, and how you train your mind to work with the unique talents and thoughts that you have.
and it's
And
understanding yourself enough to be able to do that. It's basically
yeah,
just learning about yourself and setting yourself up for success. I know I'm going to do that, so I'm going to do this, this, and this so that I don't do that. You know, you give yourself a break and a chance to actually survive based on, like you said, your talents individually.
yeah, and I don't want to invalidate anybody that might be using mood or mind altering medication to deal with a challenging condition, particularly even temporary. There's a lot of good data that suggests maybe temporarily that's not a bad
Definitely.
idea.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But knowing it's temporary.
My issue is that me being in the functional world for so long, and I've worked with chronic people that have been on a different mood or mind altering medications, is that at some point it doesn't really work anymore, and you just think it's working, and so now you're mentally kind of crutched on it. And then if you do try to come off, there's the withdrawal, which you think is you being insane when really it's temporary. Like it's going to pass because your neurotransmitters and everything. The body is such a balancing mechanism, magnificent mechanism, that once you try to shift the neurotransmitters to a certain degree, it's going to over time learn to counterbalance that, and you're probably back at the same balance that you had before you started the medication, because there's no real evidence that really it's neurotransmitter imbalance that people are going through. And that's why I know, like for me, for example, I can tell you 100% different micro traumas and traumas happening at the same time kicked off, different like firing sequences, my midbrain and my dopamine, catecholamine, and the way that my genetics works and how I process those things got overactivated from an early age. So my central nervous system is always upregulated, a lot like you just said. It set a firing sequence that is a pattern that is now burnt into my subconscious programming. And so I know, though, through using functional health tools, through living a really healthy lifestyle, that you can overcome a lot of these things. So a lot of it does arise in the body and not the mind. Maybe not everything. I don't want to classify every mental condition as physiologic, just musculoskeletal or something in nature. I don't want to suggest that, but I am suggesting that it is way more to do with the body than we think. And so
Definitely.
yeah,
Your
please,
mind can also create physiological problems.
yeah,
So, the research showing about lucky socks. So if I work with a lot of professional athletes, if these athletes don't have their lucky socks, they will lose the game. Like they create this, and so it's all about understanding the stressors in your life. And the more informed you are on your health and what the individual things are, you can then create a system of understanding and then helping yourself create the tools or get the tools to help create a more balanced life. But it's not, no one's ever broken because you become addicted to external things, synthetic things that you're putting in your system. So when you do come off of it, like you said, there is a withdrawal, and that makes you feel even more broken. So it makes you not want to detach from whatever drug that is. And so long term, these side effects are detrimental. And if you look, I don't know if you look at, pharmaceutical commercials, but they're getting worse. I'm like, there's two ways to die on this one. I didn't realize death was like, remember before it was never death. And it was like, it could possibly kill you with stroke or a lung blood clot. And I'm just like, pulmonary embolism. Like, what do we do? My brother and I laugh. We're like, how are we normalizing this? Like, how is this okay? But it's good for people to know there are other ways to help yourself. So when you say functional medicine, tell us a little bit about just what that means to you.
yeah. So when you look at the root word and you understand that fundamentally speaking, what happened in the United States was we adopted a systems medicine approach, which means that basically the body is divided up roughly, and there's like 11 systems of the body fundamentally. And then people were given speciality, right? Or they were given licenses, in particular to their area of scope, their scope of practice, and it allows practitioners to have different titles, different areas of expertise, and that is really good logically for business. Like I go to the GI doctor when I have a GI problem. I go to the thyroid doctor or the endocrinologist when I have a thyroid problem, and it all seems really nice, and it's really good for billing and it's really good for careers and all that makes sense. But that's
The
not how the body.
corporation.
Yes, but fundamentally, that is not how the body works. Okay, and so when we think of functional medicine, it's root cause medicine. So if I go to a endocrinologist and I say that I'm feeling low energy, the endocrinologist may look at a blood panel and see where my thyroid sits, right? And then the answer, my thyroid is low, would be to just give me thyroid replacement hormone. Okay?
For the rest of your life.
Right. But if you were to go to, let's say, a functional endocrinologist, right? Which there's not many of them. Okay. Let's say you go to a functional practitioner at all and you say you're tired. They run your blood work. They see your thyroid's a little low. They're going to say, okay, what are all the systems that are involved with the endocrine system that can be underperforming because multiple systems interact with each other to create a function. So like your metabolism, you can't point to it. It's not in one place. It's happening everywhere all the time. It is the product of all 11 systems operating at whatever capacity they're at to create the outcome of metabolism. Same thing that's why everybody says a number one issue is fatigue. Because how you feel, or basically the better answer here is there's two forms of energy. There's the amount of ATP you're producing, and then there's the amount of how sensitive you are to feeling your hormones, which is two different things, right? Like I can be producing plenty of ATP, but I could be overproducing and insensitive to cortisol, so I feel tired, or I'm underproducing cortisol, right? So there's two components to this, but fundamentally speaking, I'm going to say what systems are integrally, tied to working with the thyroid that could make it lower, and what are other root cause things like diet, lifestyle, stress, other medications. What are all the things that may be involved in why the thyroid's running low? Let's put them in a deductive process. Let's work each one of them working forward to an outcome. instead of like Western medicine, which is inductive reasoning, where it's like you find a symptom, you create a theory, you then either prescribe a drug or a treatment, and then you test this theory and work backwards and see if it works. That's inductive reasoning. And then if one doesn't work, then you throw another something at it, and you throw another something at it, and you throw another something at it. The fundamental problem with medicine is not that they're evil. It's not that there's any of that. There's a lot of great medicine out there, okay? The fundamental problem with Western medicine is how they solve problems. It's how they try to solve complex systems. The body is a complex system, so there are multiple variables ever involved in why a symptom is there. And so if you don't work with somebody that can't work a little bit of all of those systems to create balance and optimization and natural restoration, then you're never actually going to get the result that you desire. So when I walk into a doctor's office and what I want them to do is resolve my problem, I'm fundamentally opposed to what healing means to me and to them right when I walk into the office, right? Because what they're going to try to do is just provide some kind of protocol, treatment, or procedure that helps quell the symptom. But what you're looking for is a solution, like a long-term solution. And typically that's not found in inductive reasoning. Does this make sense? I hope this is.
No, this is what I preach on a regular basis, because just so people know, and it's sad because, when you find a thyroid issue, there should be other questions asked. And most of the time I was talking about testosterone. People were low in testosterone and everyone's like, supplement. This is a synthetic hormone that you're now putting into your system. That's fine if you need that, but what other pathways impact testosterone production? And we were talking about mercury. Mercury causes elevated cortisol, and then your body's not able to tend to that other system like you were talking about. And so then you're putting another synthetic form of a hormone into you when your system's already functioning at its lowest, and it's not fixing the problem, and it's stressing the body, and you're going further and further away from balance. So 100%.
Jenna, let's take that perfect example. And so let's take that. That's a great example, low testosterone. And let's say it's in a, middle-aged male or female. Let's just, for this podcast, let's say female. So she's still of childbearing years. We're not getting it. Let's say it's not perimenopause related or menopausal related. We'll just say we're just seeing low testosterone. Okay. So for example, in our online coaching clinics that we have, right? And in our offices, what would happen is if you came in and we saw low testosterone, the first thing we're going to do is really advanced assessments to look at all systems of the body. Because your gastrointestinal system and all different systems play a part into your hormone layout. Like let's say you're low
even your genetics.
Yeah, genetics. So we do genetic testing, right, as well. That's something I only want to add. So I'm going to try to keep this simple because I don't want to sometimes.
No, my audience knows all this stuff, and I know how to simplify it for people. Right. And it's I have the genetic mutation where I can't methylate properly too. So we introduce this a lot just because again, we know every drink at Starbucks, but we don't know anything about our bodies. So my whole thing is living to a higher standard, like keeping people accountable. Care about what's actually important in life. So
yeah. So when we see low testosterone, we don't go, well, the answer is that you just need more.
Yeah.
We're going to look through all your assessments. We're going to look at your lifestyle. Your diet has a huge impact on your hormones. Your micronutrient balance has a huge impact on your hormones. Your toxic load has a huge impact on your hormones because all toxins are xenoestrogenic and can lead to excess aromatization, which means the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, right? We know because of the manufacturing of cholesterol, the processing of cholesterol and digestion has a big impact, right? We know that as well. And so we work through all of those systems. So for us, I created a 4F method. So when you look at all 11 systems of the body, there's actually a pattern of switches that if you turn them all on in the right order, you can almost restore anything to the body without even knowing what the exact problem is. Because everyone's going to go, well, why is my testosterone low? It's like, well, it's probably 20% here, 13% there,
exactly.
17% here. Let's not worry about that. Let's put a deductive process in place. And that's what I've created called the 4F method. It's what we trademarked and it's what I teach at my university to doctors and coaches all over the country. Because if you follow a deductive process where you work like adrenals, so you work the endocrine, you work liver, and you flush out a little bit of the gut. So you do like a flush phase, you flush somebody out, then you move into gut and you increase microbiome diversity and you create a better digestive system. Then you focus on what we call we like to work autophagy. So we're getting people out of mTOR into AMPK because we're getting rid of more free radicals. We're getting rid of excess dead cells, damage, anything that might be in there interfering. And at that
for
same
people
time,
to know too, there's a lot of dead tissue inside of us and stagnant lymph and
yeah,
stagnant blood
100%.
flow. As I say, it's like puddles of garbage because like
I'm
I'll
so
work
glad
with
you know that.
people. Yeah, trust me, I'm very like parasite aware. Like I've done detoxes
Oh,
from
we
7
just became
fasts. I'm telling you,
best friends.
you have no idea what I know. I knew the system was corrupt a long time ago, so my whole life has been spent to help uncover things that have been hidden because they're long-term fixes versus just little
Yeah.
band-aids that pay the system.
And then right there, if you focus on, then you get into hormones. You make sure your insulin, glucose, all your sex hormones are balanced. And then you try to feed people up to make sure that they're fully nourished. Because a lot of times, if you try to overfeed people to fully nourish them in the beginning, they're already in a pro-inflammatory state. Adding a bunch of food can actually be more pro-inflammatory, right?
Yes.
Now, granted, you want them, a lot of times we start people Mediterranean. We have a Mediterranean detox that I designed called The Flush.
Nice.
It was one of the first diets I created many years ago. It's what the book's coming out in the end of the year.
Nice.
But by opening up the lymphatics, opening the liver, supporting the endocrine system, then moving into gut, then moving into autophagy, and then optimizing hormones. If you did that, so we did a case study of 7,000 people, all coming in with all kinds of different rare conditions. Okay. We did an intro lab, but we wanted specifically people to understand. I don't have to micro treat every single, which I don't treat, by the way, but our team, right behind me of licensed practitioners, I don't have to micro deal with every different imbalance that exists. If
all
I
at
actually
once,
work a
especially.
system, right? If I work a system that turns all the switches back on in a deductive process, all of the systems of the body will fall back into alignment like spinning plates. And so we took 7,000 people, we put them through this program. We didn't really go off labs. We looked at them, we observed them. We focused on the process of hitting the systems. We made micro adjustments based on some of the labs. Of those 7,000 people, over 92% had massive success, almost all their symptoms gone. And we didn't have to overanalyze. We just know if there's certain things you turn them back on, things start to happen and start to go back into alignment. So it's more of an alignment, almost like chiropractic of the system, you could say, but not, we're not really adjusting.
Yes.
Here, but
and it's a cascade effect of all the other systems living in a healthier environment where they can actually thrive versus you're just sitting here going up a hill nonstop.
But if we do run into a problem, so like our program, we try not to, as people come in, we think that system should best be delivered by a coach with maybe a doctor behind them or whatever, which is what we have, right? Because a coach can be in the suck with them, help them make the adjustments, the mindset adjustments, the dietary adjustments. The practitioner doesn't have time to get in there and hold your hand like that, nor should they. So we think that functional medicine, the only way to deliver it best is with the utility that comes with a coach. We think that coaching is the best functional technology, the same that nursing is to Western medicine, coaching is to functional medicine. And so that's why I've dedicated my entire life to training arts of coaching, a university for teaching coaches, a university for training functional medicine systems, because the way it happened for me, just so you know, I got sick. I ended up developing this program, a personal training program that blew up near Chicago. I got poached by a company called Metagenics. You may be familiar with them. Metagenics isn't just a supplement company. They are a global research a company where they've got Gig Harbor, Washington, where they're doing the research of the future. And then they hire their doctors to then train, at seminars and conferences across the world. And then the way they fund that is through their supplement sales, right? But I got to train under Dr. Jeffrey Bland, who is really the godfather of functional medicine. He's the founder of IFM. I had no idea who I was in the presence of at the time. If anybody doesn't know who he is, and if you like functional medicine at all, that man had a lot to do with the reason that you feel better today. You just don't know it through the trickle-down effect. It's like 7 ways of Kevin Bacon. All roads lead back to Dr. Bland. And so I then was the medical rep, which is the functional medicine consultant for clinics, networks all across the country. And so I worked with over 1,000 practitioners who use different modalities to try to heal the same problems. I found all the best techniques as I was the guy behind the guy. So when they couldn't figure a case, they called me, right? So I've seen every kind of case on planet Earth, and I had practice sitting there. I mean, I'd sit there with their case studies. I would go through them with them when they were trying to learn functional medicine, right? So I saw all the different systems. I saw the different modalities. And what I figured out, Jenna, the number one problem that I found is that any practitioner, the problem is getting too specific. So it's specializing. And we need specialization. Like if you're a children's heart surgeon, we need you to be pretty damn specialized in that thing. Or if there's a rare condition that only you work with, you're going to want to be pretty specialized in that thing. And I appreciate that. But the problem is that a practitioner, if they're only working, they're looking at the problem from their modality, right? So a chiropractor, interestingly enough, every solution involves chiropractic, right? A hormone specialist, interestingly enough, every answer will involve hormones. Whatever practitioner, whatever they do, they're going to do their main modality. And usually healing requires multiple modalities at once, right? So I wanted to create an ecosystem where you could work multiple modalities at one time in a synergistic way, a bit like Cleveland Clinic, and have people be able to easily do it from home virtually, have all their labs, supplements, everything just show up at their door so they could just live it. They don't have to go anywhere to make this really possible. And that's what I created. It's called Vital Coaching, and it's one of the largest one-on-one functional health coaching companies in the United States. Because we needed to create an alternative system where someone was holding your hand through the process. You could work a deductive process, still have medical teams in the background should you need them, but really live it with that coach, because that coach is going to help you with the mindset, the psychology, which is one of the most important parts of healing. And then if we need to refer out, we like them to have a therapist, or we'd like them to have, whatever else. And we try to work with that practitioner because we're very pliable. We're very welcoming. Most doctors just aren't welcoming because they don't want another cook in the kitchen. And I understand that, but
not in healthcare.
Right. But again, through that method, at Vital Coaching and our other coaching companies, we have a 92% success rate. In fact, we guarantee results, or we work with you for free till you do, on almost any condition in the known world. So think about that for a minute, right?
I say that too. We're very similar. It's funny. I say that with injuries.
Our Chicago attitude.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. We could do anything.
Right. It's like this. I'm so tired of all this alternative world making me look bad because they make a lot of promises they don't deliver on. And then when they can't make promises, all they do is scare the shit out of you. Excuse me. I don't know if we cuss on this one, but excuse my language.
Always open for
that.
They
scare the shit out of you to sell you. And then they sell you something and have you. Right. And then they make you sit there forever with unknown when any results are going to come. And so the thing that scares people is that they will buy programs but not be bought into the program. There's a difference.
Because there's a lab coat and they just blindly follow. Because we've been conditioned to do that. It's all based on a corporation. And I feel like I understand, because this is a big fight that I always have, because my mom's like, not everyone cares as much as you do. You don't sign up to be in the medical industry impacting people's lives unless, because we took an oath, do no harm. Part of doing no harm is finding a full, well-rounded, I'm the same way. I volunteered. I used to work at burn and trauma in downtown at Stroger, Cook County Hospital. Oof. I've seen the most. I worked in Alzheimer's wards. I knew I didn't want to do that. But until you know the full scope of the human, you don't understand. You can't just work one lane and only think of that, because there's so many other stimuli that are impacting that system. And so you're just like making people go in circles. And as soon as you tell them they have this diagnosis, every day, all day long, this is what I see with my patients. Oh, I have this. And you see their soul leave their body. They're like, oh, I have this. And it crutches them for life. And it literally, the psychology of that, being depressed, I can't deliver, guys that can't do their function. And they're like, oh, wow, I'm not who I used to be. And that's another cascading event where it starts to make more inflammation and create more issues functionally, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. So this makes me so happy.
Nailed it. And I love your story, because what you're saying is that the road to being really a well-rounded, wise practitioner is very windy and it's very awkward. Like you'll find yourself, when I was working behind every type of doctor you can imagine, a reflexologist, a chiro, ND, NP, DO, you name it.
Yep.
I'm learning about what they're doing. And I'm like, what good is this going to be to me? I had no idea at the time. But now, because I have such a diverse experience level, that I can understand and translate what they're trying to do, what I think we should get them to do. I can work. I can understand how it comes together full circle, and have a much more of a comprehensive understanding of what healing is, what medicine should look like. And I'm so grateful for the windy, awkward, bless the broken road, rascal flats, kind of thing. Because, now not for nothing, I think we have one of the best healing systems in the world. And it came from someone who's not a licensed practitioner.
Right. Because you have a perspective of looking big picture. And just so people know, doctors, I've been in this, you see these surgeons that don't ever recommend exercise. They know nothing about nutrition. They've never exercised in their lives. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Or like I was out of shape when I was younger. When I was in school, I would run, one of those like don't eat and run. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And my knees would click and I had to sit down. I was like, I need knee replacements at like 20 years old. So I've healed myself. I ran a marathon. I've done it's unbelievable without training. It was for a charity. So I'm like, well, let's go. And so the body is so resilient, and it's unreal how people will put you in a box. They crutch you and you feel like you're broken, but you're not. You just fix a few different things and you can completely change the trajectory of your life. But same thing with the other way when someone crutches you.
Can I give you a rabbit hole? I don't suggest, by the way, anybody listening to this or watching this, more information isn't better, right?
No.
And I say this all the time because it's more of the right information. A quick Google search of your symptoms at 2 a.m. will let you know real fast that more information isn't better. Right. We are in the information era. We have more information than ever, and we know less about what's going on with us. And it has everything to do with analysis paralysis, fear, confusion, capitalist marketing tactics that leave us unsure of who to trust.
Take you away from yourself so that you don't trust yourself, so that you're like, hey, I will buy that thing because I need that in order to be healthy or to be happy and accepted in this world. It's a lot of corporation and it's really crazy. I'm happy you're doing all this stuff because people really need this in their lives.
Unfortunately, in the functional world, what people have to understand is that research is really expensive. And research takes a really long time. It takes a lot of different studies on the same phenomena to really know what you're talking about. There's no one piece of research that is scripture. You can't read one piece of research and go, oh, that's John 1:23. Like it's not, I mean, for me, founded in just fact alone, because you have to look at something many different times before you understand what that means.
Yes.
And so what happens in the functional space is people need to understand that when you're listening to somebody, like if you're listening to an influencer or you're listening to a doctor or you're listening to some expert, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, how experienced are they actually doing the thing that they're talking about? Because what really matters is not knowledge, it is wisdom. Like anybody can go read, like I love this quote, is knowledge is knowing that tomatoes a fruit, wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. Right? And what I mean by that is you can read something in research and get knowledge, but then what happens is when it's misapplied, it is actually more harmful than good because the wisdom isn't there. And so you can read all the research that you want, but you need to find trusted people like Dr. Jena here or myself or anyone, whoever you feel, this is somebody who's wise, that has massive, because our case study load between all the coaches that we have and doctors that we have, my team of like 40 coaches from different companies, our case study load, I've overseen over 100,000 case studies between the doctors and everything. So my collective wisdom and well-rounded approach, I think, makes it like me a good idea to at least listen to on the wisdom of different things, because case study in functional medicine matters. Case study and sample size. So when we talk about clinical evidence, we need to take it seriously. It's not taken seriously when we talk research because people are like, well, where's the science? Well, the problem with the science is there's not enough funding being done for it. So you can't just sit there, well, we can't see it in research, so it doesn't exist. That's not true. because everything doesn't exist until it does.
Right.
That's the problem.
And some stuff is hidden. And you have to look, because I was speaking on this infrared sauna recently, and some stuff is hidden and some stuff is paid off. So the whole research article talked about the benefits of the infrared sauna and how it lowers cholesterol and all this stuff. And then the conclusion was like, infrared sauna is no better than cholesterol lowering medication at lowering cholesterol. And I'm like, they play to human psychology. I'm like, to myself, I'm like, oh, it's no better than. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, they almost got me. I'm like, you sons of bitches. I'm like, so what is the side effect of the medication is death. One of them is death. One of them is blood clot. I always say anal leakage. The sauna is sweating. You're sweating. That's the side effect. I always say risk versus reward. What are we doing? But the way they propose it, the corporation has the human psychology down and the human marketing tactics, like you said, and they make you feel a certain way, but it's misguided toward the quick fix, which never finds the root cause. So it never gets your system working fully.
There's 3 things that I lean on, because everyone needs to create their own paradigm or their litmus test to decide, what am I going to listen to and actually take action in my life? There's 3 things that I've developed, something that I feel anyone can use. One is, yes, I listen to the experts and I see the general research. I observe it, but I make no judgments on it, right? So I will observe research. I will make no judgment on whether it's true or false. I will just simply observe it, right? Then what I do is I go first to my own intuition and knowledge, meaning that, have I observed this in the world? Does this, and now not everything's going to line up, because there's not a lot of things, not everything that you can observe, but people are smarter than they think. Okay. Like, if they really took a look at human behavior and they see, well, it's like, it says here that exercise lowers cholesterol and they have less heart attack. The people that I see more active, I don't see them having as many heart issues. So you can observe some of it in the natural world. So I ask myself that. Once again, I don't make me a judgment, but if I see research and I also can see it in the observable world, I'm a little bit more leaning that I think this is more trustworthy information. And then last, I have developed a group of about 3 different practitioners that I trust are both wise and knowledgeable, not just one. You can have people that can read research off all day, but they're not wise. I don't trust those people. I've gone into doctors' offices that are smart as hell about medications. Well, what good is that to me for wisdom about healing altogether? It's not good. So I have to trust your wisdom and your knowledge. So I found 3 people after watching over time, and I go to them, and either I ask questions or I look at the information they put out on it. And then from that, for me, I have another unique one. The 4th one is, am I observing it in my practice? So in my practice, I have a team of 12 dietitians and NPs, and we case study stuff all the time. We try maybe NAD. We try this protocol. We try this. We try that. We work with our medical team. We'll trial stuff. And if we can reproduce it within 12 people, then we really trust it and go, okay, I'm seeing this clinically. So there's clinical evidence. There's also research. And either someone I trust also thinks it's a good idea, or I'm observing it myself. If it passes those 3 things, and that takes a while, that's why I don't just adopt everything I see. I wait, because everything's like the new iPhone. It's all recency bias. Even with biohack shit, you got to be careful with the biohack.
Even LASIK, I'm like, I'm not doing LASIK. I watch. Oh, even statins. We're like, oh, sorry, we just found out that they were actually giving more heart attacks than they were helping.
Yeah.
So, our bad.
Yes, LASIK is a perfect example.
Yeah, so we as humans, we don't look at things long term. So if we start doing LASIK, I start looking at the research. We just started this a couple of years ago. We don't know in 20 years if our eye is going to fall out. So the way the medical industry works, because they're so focused on profits, they'll risk that chance. A lot of the standards are based on profits, and they'll risk that chance and be like, oh, in 20 years, if it does start happening, there's either a cover up, or they're like, oh, sorry, our bad.
100%. Same principle, right?
Yes.
Same principle. And so I agree with you. So everything's kind of like the new iPhone. Don't buy the iPhone right when it comes out. They always have problems.
Yes.
Right? You got to kind of wait for a while and let them work the bugs out.
Yes.
Don't be the first one to storm the sands in Normandy. Let someone else go first and then go. So the reason I say that is it gives me a really good paradigm that what I accept as true is most likely true, so that I don't start developing habits or beliefs off false narratives. And a lot of people coming into my practice, the first thing that we're doing is getting rid of false narratives about themselves, about what medicine is, about what's possible for them.
Just
And
so
then what
people
they
know
actually,
that we're conditioned in our society to think certain ways, and it's subconscious. It's on a small level. You go in your hotel room and there's pharmaceutical commercials playing the entire time. You go into CVS, there's pharmaceutical, get this, get that, make sure you have this. So we're conditioned. And so that's what he's talking about, just so people know, just breaking down those barriers of breaking down what you thought was right and just understanding the full picture and not just the
many
corporation side of it.
countries, direct to consumer marketing is legal. And I think it should be here. I can't believe that it's not, so that they can, just so you know, so you can be marketed pharmaceutical drugs. It's like problem solution. We can't even really do that on Facebook. Like if I went on Facebook right now and I tried to show a picture of a overweight person and I said, man, they're overweight because of X, take this, they're going to flag it. They're not going to let me run it as an ad. But wait a minute, you can buy infomercials that go, man, are you suffering fatigue, dizziness, all these symptoms that could be anything, by the way.
Yes.
And it's like, take Linzess or whatever and it's like in your mind, it's like, oh, problem solution. And let me go to my doctor now and tell them what I think that we should do. And that's just the backwards medicine, and it's done for profit. And that's how it's done for profit.
Sad. Really
Yeah.
sad. That's not
Yeah.
the way our world should work, and it's not ethical. So again, people in the medical world, they should be ethical. It should be do no harm as the first line of what you go to. And just so people know, it's not a regular thing. It's really sad. People get stuck in that corporation, even the specialties, stuff that I don't know about. I want to learn, because if you're learning about the human body, you have to know how all the systems interact with one another.
There you go.
Otherwise,
Right.
you're doing your person a disservice. What's the
Yeah.
point? You're not an expert in what you do. And I think if you're going to do something, you should be an expert in what you do. So
Yeah.
it's a scary world, but the more you're autonomous with your own health and the more you explore programs like the one that you have, the more you can understand your body and know what works for you. Because even my genetic issue, I'm like, I could be doing all this stuff correctly, and then my homocysteine levels were through the roof because I can't methylate. So like,
Good.
they're like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I can't sleep. I have anxiety. I have all this stuff. And they're like, holy crap, you could have a stroke at any moment. I'm like, perfect.
Did you start taking some trimethylglycine and methylfolate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
But
Good.
look at that. You could look at how much I'm involved in. Same thing, my experience. I was in, extreme burn and trauma, all that, but then also a professional athlete. Like I take you from injury to like never getting injured again. And so in all of that, it's just extreme to be able to see the process and how we're all just kind of guessing. And
So that's my story. I started. I'll let the consumer, like the listeners or watchers, know a little bit. So I got out of college. This is a funny one. So I got out of college and I became an international Chippendale. Okay, I don't
that's
care.
amazing. I love it.
Okay.
All your experiences shape you.
So I became the nutritionist for the Chippendales, which is how I got my start. Okay. And then I was finishing my degree while I'm traveling all over the country and doing this. And then, a lot of that funded the money that I needed to start the businesses that I did later. But the reason I'm sharing that is I started working with a lot of athletes. So MMA was a good area. Athletic performance nutrition became an area. And so I really started in prep coaching. And then in sport, you can learn how the human body works at its optimal peak, which then when you compare it to the severely diseased, if you're someone who's an expert in optimal, it's very easy to start seeing what's wrong in the dysfunctional. And so then you can start making inferences about what optimizes someone optimally, who's already a pretty high optimally, balanced,
person.
working well, functioning, and how I can take that and use some of those things to regenerate optimization inside of the dysfunctional. So I really value people that have that diversity of being able to discuss from the athlete to the severely diseased. And I think that we have an advantage because what I've discovered is all disease is metabolic. So if I improve your metabolism of fat, toxins, trauma,
circulation, yeah, all of that.
emotion. So,
Yes. The trauma and emotions is huge.
right? So it's all metabolism. So when I improve your metabolic rate or your ability to totally metabolize things in your body to produce, process, and excrete, most disease goes away on its own. And that's what I've discovered. And so, interestingly enough, when I started working all of these weight loss resistance cases, all of them a few years later all had disease because when your body stops metabolizing, when it slows down, disease begins to grow. And so, when we optimized the metabolism, all their disease went away secondarily. So then I'm like, aha. So, like, I don't have to know every disease to know what to do. I can know the systems, open them up, and then the disease by de facto goes away. That's why I don't treat, cure, or prevent anything. I nutritionally support the systems that then will undo it themselves.
Right.
You know?
And you're actually moving the needle. Just so people know, these drugs that you're taking is just a Band-Aid. When you're looking at it from a holistic approach, you're fixing this whole system. So then you become this machine. I make people superhuman. So I have people that start with this injury and they're hobbling around, or I have to go to their house because they can't get out of their bed because they can't move because their back hurts. And then I'm like, and I hear them, oh, I have this, oh, the disc or bone on bone. Enough with the bone on bone. I get the same thing from everyone. That's just something they tell you to get you out. I look at the
Yeah.
x-ray like it's like I'm going to give the back of a 20-year-old, So I'm
Right.
like, you have to get that out of your head. I have a 95-year-old right now where she's like, I have neuropathy. I'm like, that's the story you're telling yourself. And she's this little witty person. And she's like, well, the doctors think I have neuropathy, but that's just something that they think. And I'm like, there you go. So now it doesn't have neuropathy anymore. So the human body is insane. You
Yes.
can create so much. And the energy we put towards things, like you said earlier, that's what's going to happen. You create it.
Yeah. I've been dealing with a massive, I had an SI tear, L4, L5, bulge, and a few bone spurs. Now, you can have all that in there, but that has nothing to necessarily do with the pain that you're experiencing, right? Because where is that coming from? Well, it can be idiopathic. It can be all kinds of different areas of things going on. So my process early on was, of course, again, I started nutrition. I did chiropractic for a while. I did decompression, but then I moved over to PT where we had to stabilize the joint first, right? Then rebalance the muscles second, right? Then build strength around it. And meanwhile, while I'm doing that though, not throw off my firing sequence of my muscles because it's the whole thing, right? Those multifidi aren't firing correctly. When the firing sequence doesn't work right, then you're going to be a little bit off in your
everything you do is a compensation pattern, and it's reinforcing the pain you have. Your body thinks it's protecting itself neurally. It's like trying to protect you, but you watch people bend over. I'm like, no, you're hurting yourself worse. Like, please stop doing that.
And then it's
subconscious.
Yes, but anytime I get too overworked or I get too stressed, it's the same sequence, right? So like my body will lock up the same way. So now for me, it's all about taking my time stops, doing a little bit of extra, some stretching, doing some mindset work to keep myself in more of because I'm an uppity type A guy, to get myself more in a balanced position most of the time of the day so that my muscles don't lock up because that's what I'm still dealing with now. More strength and the actual mind central nervous system connection to the firing sequence and what's happening. But I thought for a while there I was going to have surgery. And I know now what I needed, as you do this, I'm sure, I needed a deductive approach. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, work it towards the solution instead of just guessing what it is, providing a drug or a procedure, and then testing the theory backwards.
Right. And only addressing one lane.
Right. The difference between deductive and inductive reasoning. There's a book called The Problem with Induction. Now, if you can bore it, it's an extremely boring book, but it changed everything that I think about how I solve problems and the way that I look at medicine. So I know I walk into a clinic, I'm going into a inductive reasoning, inductive problem solving solution, but with a deductive mindset. So we are already opposed. Like whatever you tell me is not actually what I'm going to really agree is the best answer. So I don't go there anymore. I go to functional practitioners because I know that we're in alignment on what healing is.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's so important. I appreciate that. Your experience is invaluable because there's not a lot of people that have that mindset out there. And it's You should see. So I don't even advertise myself as PT because I don't take insurance. So now I imagine watching people not do certain treatments and they're like, oh, there's no research on that. You're dumb. And I'm like, okay, watch what I do. So I was the first female head coach in NASCAR for the six of the NASCAR teams
Yeah.
for Joe Gibbs Racing and three of their motocross guys. And so I put in their whole recovery center. Imagine working against that ego.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah.
like but being able to, I'm 100% Greek. You said European before the Mediterranean diet. I'm like, yes, Mediterraneans. But I grew up with all brothers hunting, fishing. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I try to learn how to relate to people. I try to hold my own so that I'm not, undervaluing myself. But
Yeah.
it's crazy to see the holistic approach of what you can actually do to the body. You have no idea. I had a guy that was fully paralyzed, not paralyzed anymore after 10 years. And I was like, I'm like, I don't know, but the processes of what I know physiologically, I'm like, let's see what happens. I'm like, we can't fuck it up more. And he's like, that's so true. I'm like, let's
This
go.
is what
And
I'm
he's
saying.
not
So
paralyzed anymore.
you don't have to know exactly what it is to know what to do. This is, again, deductive reasoning. I can walk in with my approach and try to work towards an outcome
Yes.
instead of trying to scour for years. And this is what people have to listen to. If you're out there and you're unsure what you're dealing with, you do not need to scour for a name. It's like, I'm looking for a name. Give me a name of the enemy. What is the name of what I have so I can start working on it? No, that is backwards. What I'm trying to tell you is you don't have to know the name to know what to do. And that's what she just explained. She's like, listen, you've got this diagnosis. I understand, of paralyzed. Maybe we don't exactly know why you're paralyzed or everything that's involved in it and what other maybe comorbidities may exist into why you are where you are. But I'm going to walk you through my deductive process towards a solution of recovery and see if it works.
Right.
That's
And if you
deductive.
know, and if you know the central nervous system with any kind of nerve, with visualization, I studied with the Navy SEALs and they use visualization, the research behind that. And if you
Yeah.
mentally imagine it, you're basically training your body like you're doing the activity. So you look at that and I was like, imagine. So the dendrite can actually reach out an arm. It can grow an arm and function some other muscle that it never was even connected to before. So I was like, visualize in your head the energy going down from your brain and just stimulating your toes. I'm like, just do it. And so one day he texted me, it was after 6 months, he'd been paralyzed for 10 years. And he's like, my toes moved for the first time. He had complete foot drop bilaterally, like foot drag, wheelchair. He only had hip flexion on both sides. So just know the body. And when you're saying deductive reasoning, I want people to know that it's not just like a guessing game.
No.
We're not doing harm. It's always risk versus reward. If you're not going to hurt the person
Right.
and you're creating a positive outcome in their physiology, that's a win. I see people go on these medications where they have, book-long side effects and then they get some other symptom. Then they're like, you have to take this medication and then this one to combat this symptom. So it's just a never-ending cycle of toxins in the system that's already overloaded. So it's
Exactly.
yeah,
I
you're
love
fixing.
that. My PTs, especially the ones at our university and stuff, are my favorite. I love PTs because they understand there's a million different methods out there,
Yes.
right? And most of them stink. There's some that are good, but there's some that are, let's say stink isn't a good word. Let's say incomplete. Incomplete's a fair word,
Yes.
right? Fair assessment.
Not efficient. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And for example, at our university, we give people this 4F nutritional system that they can just follow 1, 2, 3 while they're doing whatever treatment that they're doing. And we exponentially grow the outcomes because we're hitting multiple modalities of healing while they're maybe working musculoskeletal. Maybe they're working, if you go multiple layers, maybe they're working the psychology, right? All the other stuff. You put all that stuff together, PTs become really, really powerful. So I can see what you're doing. That's incredible work. Yeah,
You become superhuman,
Yeah.
literally. I have guys that follow my mountain biking CEOs. They work with professional mountain bikers and the guy's like, I can't believe he just falls and just gets right back up. Even my motocross guys, because you're becoming the research on how many muscles we activate as far as pro athletes is we do not use a fraction. I think it's like 35% at a submax level. So imagine the regular sedentary person. Like we're not stimulating ourselves as much as we can. Like it's ridiculous. So if we it's
Am I
crazy.
right on this? Am I right on this? Actually, athletes, especially muscular athletes, are actually the ones that have some of the most imbalances, overcompensation. So they use
Yeah.
less muscles but the bigger ones are just more active and stronger.
It just depends on the person, because I've had athletes in NASCAR that are ex-NFL, and they want to know more, because when people know what I do, they're like, please, what about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Because I research everything and I do it myself. I will not, like fasting. I did 7 days without eating.
Same,
Then you
same.
start looking into coffee enemas, and I'm like, here, how did I get
We
here? And I'm
do
like,
coffee
what's
we do coffee
happening?
too. Yeah.
All my
Coffee enemas and
patients,
fasting.
all
Yeah.
my patients are learning about coffee enemas, and I went on a whole retreat where I went to a facility, and it was all about,
Yeah. I
just
did that too.
lymph drainage. And these tools that we use are for different egos. Some of my guys I can't get through, so I'll have them use pink weights so that they calm down and get out of their own way so I can help them. So it's all about, like, not everything is efficient, but it could be efficient for this person. So there's never absolutes in health, and there's never, like, don't be negative towards something because it could help someone. It's just knowing when to use it, and you have to have experience like you have to be able to understand, okay, this guy could help with that. I trust him, so let's send this person that way. And
Yeah.
that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Invaluable. So
Yeah. You got it.
break down a little bit about what the person would get with you. Just so if someone wants to come to you, you say university. I just don't want people to get confused. Just say what they would get and, like, what you would help them with, just so if, I know people are going to want to reach out. So just so they have a better understanding.
So no matter where you are in the world, if you're dealing with an issue and it's unexplained, you're having a hard time with it, you can reach out, of course, on our Instagram or vitalcoaching.com. And we do some really advanced assessments, all right, coming in the door. Then we build out like your functional 4-step system that we can do. We offer a guarantee with it. If I can't significantly improve it in 12 weeks, any condition almost on planet Earth, provided you're not in the middle of a cancer treatment, any condition in the world, I will take it on. And if I can't show you improvement in 12 weeks, I will work with you for free till we do. That's how good we are. We put it on the line. I don't play around. I sell results. I do not sell programs. And that's for any of our team too. So what happens is then you get onboarded. You kind of get a package where you do like a monthly package. It's like a membership. So you'll have 2 coaches that are supporting you, and then you'll have a medical team, and the services are free. So if you need to see them on hormones, endocrinology, or you need something for cardiovascular, all of it's virtually organized for you. So everything just shows up at your home. We'll run some labs at first. We start working the program. It includes the fitness. It includes the mindset tools. It includes the nutrition, supplementation programs, everything, all included all in one. And then we're tracking your biofeedback and giving you a touch point weekly. We're coaching. If you're an athlete, you understand how important coaching is. Coaching is the future. You want to enhance outcomes of anything that you do, have someone coach it at the same time, and it changes everything, right? People need that connection today. We lack connection, right? And the problem is that a great practitioner gets so busy, they cannot give the level of connection required to every single person unless they only want to see 12 people in a practice, which isn't very scalable, right? So that's why we train our coaches, because I developed this method that I was explaining, and then now we teach other coaches, and then we either teach them to go independent online, where you can make over 100K from home doing this on your own, or you can go work for a practitioner, and then we put you into a practitioner's office who wants coaches that knows this stuff. But you work through the process, and then we keep going through the different systems, because the 4F process will work you through all 11 systems. And then usually most people see about 70 to 80% resolution within 4 to 6 months, depending on the severity, some 3. Then a lot of people just love staying. They love our community. They love our apps. They love learning. We have classes going all the time. You may know Dr. Carrie Jones. She's a naturopath. She's in the practice as well. We have our group educations every week for our clients. So you get the education, you get the coaching, you get the results. And I mean, people think that stuff usually costs thousands of dollars a month. I mean, we've got programs that are even for that down to like $3.99, $4.99 a month. Like, we've made it affordable if people really want to solve a problem. And it's because I built an entire health network, and I told the rest of the Western world to just take a hike because we don't need you. In fact, you're getting in the way. And then that's what we do. And we walk people to liberation, and then we coordinate. Like, if they needed somebody on the ground, like let's say they needed a PT because they need hands-on work, Then usually we have them look for a good PT in the area. Then we try to work with them based on what they're doing. If there's something we need to adjust, we adjust. Or if they have a specialist, right? Maybe they're working with a cardiovascular practitioner that's specific to heart disease or something like that. Then we'll work and we'll cater with that. But our goal is to create you a plan to get off as many medications as possible and live free, happy, and healthy. Right?
Amazing. And just so people know, I know you didn't say specifics about what you're helping. Everything gets better. This is anti-aging. Like, people put all this garbage on their skin, especially in LA. I'm like, that's poison that you're putting on your skin. $500.
Right.
But yeah, keep going. But just so you know, skin, anti-aging, there's preventing wrinkles, preventing disease, preventing pain.
Yeah.
This is all impacted by that. So it's not just one thing. When you start to fix the system as a whole, you address everything and things that you could be insecure about, thinning hair, all this different stuff that we normalize in our society as being part of aging. It's not part of aging. So I'm glad that people could recognize this and they have a place to go to, because I always say I collect good people doing good things, and having that network is invaluable, because it's hard to know who you can trust that are actually people that are doing the research, because it takes a lot to get that experience you have. The experience I have with, it's no one else has the experience we have. And so it's invaluable and it needs to be respected more. And I speak for Perform Better. It's a company that works with all the different coaches and things. And I always say that. I'm like, you guys need to start respecting yourselves more than you need to, because you are the future. And the doctors don't know this stuff. So, which is sad. And they're running people's lives. So we need to make a little shift and help people educate themselves to become more autonomous with their health.
Right. And again, our program's dependent. We run all the best functional labs, but we don't blow people's money right away and run everything under the sun. We run what's necessary for you at the time, also based on your budget. If you want to do everything, we will. But if we have to get by with very little, we still give a guarantee to people with no labs. Like if you can't afford the labs, fine, I'll roll with you, right? But we do love to do genetics, because then we can build your genetic programs in with the 4F system. And then when you're done, we can give you we give everyone a great post-care program that shows how they annually kind of rotate diets and how you intuitively mimic your diet. So you don't have to over focus on what you're doing to maintain great results. We show people based on their genetic profiles, what supplements should be rotated in more often, what things that they should be looking out for in the future, so that they really are in a place where they are independent and can do it on their own from then on, right? Yep. We do not coach dependence. We do not people please though either. So if you come here, you better be ready to heal. Right?
Love that. And you don't want to enable people. I'm the same way. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear, especially out here with all these celebrities I work with. I'm like, no, sorry, that's not me. I'm not an enabler. You're just making my life harder. Sorry.
I know.
It's hilarious.
It's difficult to deliver truth with integrity and empathy.
Yes.
But to deliver truth nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, you have to, because of being in LA, I was like, wow, I can't say the truth here, apparently. So now I'm going to I had to rework how to say things to people, because I'm like, you watch the news too much. I can hear what you're saying. I'm like, that was on everyone walking in says the same thing. I'm like, oh, were you watching Channel 4?
Yeah. Unwinding the indoctrination, right?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
First step. The first step is our realities have to become more the same if you're going to trust me to guide you and lead
What
you.
if there were other realities, and trusting your discernment, because it's more powerful than you realize. And until you decide that, you feel lost. That gut
100%.
feeling is always right. But say your website again, just for people so they can look you up.
If anyone's, again, lost, it doesn't cost you anything. We do free consults. You can do the assessments online. We can show you some comprehensive assessments to kind of let you know what's going on with you, what systems are most off. You can do that at vitalcoaching.com. You can check out just my content. I think it'll inspire you at Vince_Pitstick, whether you're for Instagram or Metabolic Mentor on YouTube. If you are a practitioner and you are in search of increasing your outcomes significantly, going to a trade school where we actually solve your cases with you, because that's what we do at ours. You bring your cases to us, we'll solve it with you. We will show you that we can create unmatched, incredible outcomes that will build your practice without good marketing. Great results is great marketing. And that's what we do at Metabolic Mentor University. So you can check out metabolicmentoruniversity.com. And that's what we do, So I hope everybody checks that out, because I'm telling you, the information that we do have, the things that we have discovered through over 100,000 case studies, unequivocally tells us that the information we have, the world needs to know, and you're going to want to know for your life and for others,
Yes. So you can live the longest, healthiest life, and you can watch your kids thrive and not be poisoned and actually have a strong immune system and thrive in their lives. So thank you so much for what you do.
100%.
I have questions that I ask everyone, and I know we've been going. I apologize for keeping you longer. I love your communication. It's amazing. But if you could tell your younger self, if you can give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
You can't control how or when, but trust that you're going to make it. You know what I mean? And that was it. All the times that I was unsure, I didn't need to be unsure of that we would win, that it would happen, that I would be okay. I just don't get to control how or when.
I love that. And I feel for people too, it's sometimes you feel like you're being kicked in the face over and over, but all of those things, if you take the good and the lesson from it, you can guide yourself to be who you should really be and live your full potential. And so a lot of the things too with me where in the past, I'm like, oh, this is horrible. Now I'm like, thank God that happened. So yeah, accept that. I love that.
Pain is the teacher, try to sit with it and be grateful in what its lessons are, no matter what, no matter how painful it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't just ignore it. Have to.
Yeah.
Then it just gets worse. And you go through the same lessons over and over until you finally get it. Yeah. And then the last one is one behavior change that you feel can lead to the biggest change in someone's life.
Oh boy. God, there's so many good ones I can give. But honestly, I think the easiest one that leads to most success, balance, and happiness is resetting your circadian rhythm to get up at 5:30 every morning. I really do. Once I reset my rhythm that I have time for myself in the morning, I still provide, I suppose I should say probably 8 hours of sleep. But, what the one that comes up most relevant for me now, because I think what's important to you changes. I think the most successful and happy people in the world, I got to be honest, they have made it a practice to make sure that they get up early enough to make room for themselves before the rest of life, because everything flows from you. So the first thing that you should work on is you. Your must becomes your first. And that's why I'm telling you that to the mothers too out there. Moms, you got to hear this, right? Like having a child should not be a guaranteed illness for you. And it shouldn't be a health risk.
And it's not selfish to take care of yourself. I have a lot of moms that do that. They feel bad, but that's not selfish because long-term wise, you're taking care of your family.
What we call is maybe being selfish is us actually just trying to reasonably deny taking up the responsibility of taking care of ourselves. That's what that is. It's a reasonable excuse that no one would challenge you on. But if you looked at you in the mirror, you know intrinsically that you're not holding up to a key responsibility that is you taking care of yourself to be an example for others. All things flow from me. Therefore, if I do not invest in me, I hurt all things that receive my flow. And if people do not understand that, I understand, but that just takes time.
But explore that. And that's how you get to that understanding, is exploring things and just being open-minded to other ideas, because that's how you learn different ideas and you see different perspectives on life. And that's how you just develop yourself as a whole. So thank you for your insight. I appreciate you so much.
Awesome.
Amazing. Like-minded individuals keep changing lives. I'm telling I'm like, did we just become best friends? We're going to be good friends. I appreciate what you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, appreciate you.
Such a good conversation. Thank you. Thank you again to Vince Pitstick for joining us. It was such an insightful conversation, and you are so aligned with what I believe in and the things I've seen help change people's lives. So it was very refreshing to talk to you, and I appreciate your expertise, and I look forward to our future friendship because I feel like we've just become best friends. This information is so invaluable, and I hope you learned a lot from this episode, and I hope you continue to learn more about your health so you can be your own health advocate. Make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends so they can be as smart as you, and we'll see you guys next time.